We're now on part 3.
I love the chase and the hunt, and I set the pace when I'm running. I always take what I want and I always give it 100. Don't need a bank, no I'm funded. Play the game like it's nothing. I'm always thankful for something. Don't take for granted, stay humble. Now wake up! It's time to look at the enemy. Look in the mirror and
Hello everyone and welcome back to Pitch This here on the MrEliMac channel. I'm your host, MrEliMac, and I apologize if I still sound a little under the weather. I'm just now recovering from having COVID last week. But that doesn't matter. What matters is the what if the Arrowverse was Marvel. We're back with part 3 of the series, and we're continuing on into the grander Arrowverse, where we are now getting deeper into the shows. We're on season 4 of The Captain. We're on season 2 of Iron Man. And we're about to introduce 2 new shows into the grander Arrowverse. But before I get into the topic, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. That way you can be up to date with all the videos I have here on the channel. Also, hit the notification bell. That way you can be notified whenever a new video like this comes your way. So without any further ado, let's get into the topic. Because right now, we're going to be doing the analog for Arrow Season 4, and like always, I'm going to be talking about the shows individually before I talk about the crossover. The crossover is coming up at the end. Actually, no, not this time. The crossover is going to be talked about before I talk about the final show, which would be the Legends of Tomorrow Analog. I'm going to talk about the crossover before that because the crossover is very much the precursor to that show. So I'm going to talk about the first 2, the Arrow and Flash Analog, which is the Captain and Iron Man. Then I'm going to talk about the Supergirl Analog, and then I'm going to do the crossover, and then the Legends of Tomorrow Analog. That's what this video is going to be, so let's fully get into it, because first we're going over to Arrow Season 4, which is the Captain Season 4. In Arrow Season 4, it dealt with Arrow, or the Green Arrow, fully becoming the Green Arrow, and him going up against Damien Dark 8 with the team of Hive. So in this one, I wanted something similar. I wanted something similar to Hive, but also that was connected to Captain America. So in this one, Captain America will be going up against the antagonist of Baron Wolfgang von Strucker and the organization of Hydra. Also, this is sort of the season where we get a little bit more of the magic introduced into it. And in the flashbacks, I'll be mentioning who is sort of the magical character that gets introduced. Because in the actual Arrowverse, we got introduced to Constantine this way. But I'm not introducing someone as big as Constantine in this, mainly in the flashbacks. In the modern times, it may change, but I don't really have Constantine written, or the Constantine analog really written into the modern day. It's mainly focused on Captain America going up against Hydra. And so very much let's get into the characters that are returning, that are the main cast, and that is Captain America Steve Rogers, Sharon Carter is returning, Sam Wilson is Falcon, Ricky Barnes as Bucky, Bernie Rosenthal is returning. But a major character that was a character in prior seasons that is returning, that hasn't been seen for a while, is Bucky Barnes, aka Winter Soldier. The Winter Soldier will be returning this season because of his connection with Hydra and because of a lot of things that will be dealing with him. I know in season 2 I really didn't seem to allude that Hydra was connected to Bucky, but I really wanted Winter Soldier to come back because I wanted to do the quote-unquote retcon, showing the backstory of, oh, Hydra's actually connected with the Winter Soldier and all that. Also, General Nick Fury will be returning as our Quentin Lance analog. And also this season, we're getting the flashbacks of Steve Rogers dealing with the early formation of Hydra, where the major antagonists are Daniel Whitehall, aka Kraken, who was the major character in the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. show, but here he's also more of a major character connecting himself with Hydra, just like in the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. show, but he was also that way in the comics. Also, we're gonna have Hive. I just realized Hive connected it. But anyway, the Hive, who is sort of the leader, the formation leader of the Hydra organization, like the tentacle creature. And that's who Steve Rogers will be going up against mainly. And the Constantine analog that I mentioned will be the character of Dr. Anthony Druid. Dr. Druid, who is a mystical character in the Marvel Universe. I didn't want it to be Doctor Strange, because I wanted Doctor Strange to be more of a modern day character. Will Doctor Strange be introduced in sort of these shows? He will, but I'm not going to reveal when. But Dr. Druid is very much the magical character who will be helping Steve Rogers in the past. And now we go over to our recurring characters. Layla Taylor, the love interest of Falcon. She's returning. Baron Wolfgang von Strucker. He's an antagonist. Iron Man is a recurring character because, you know, Flash. Carl Strickland, aka the Crippler from Marvel Comics. He is someone that works for Hydra, and he's someone that's going to be appearing in sort of this show as sort of an anarchy character, someone that works with Hydra and works to try to defeat them at the same time. That's sort of what anarchy was in Arrow. And then Black Widow will be returning, and then we get the character of Dr. Donald Blake, who is very much working on, as I have him down here. He is the Curtis Holt analog. And does that mean stuff for the future? Yes, it does, but I'm not telling you just yet because that would be spoiling too much. Dr. Donald Blake is very much the Curtis Holt character inspiration. Grim Reaper, Eric Williams, is very much a major antagonist for this season, and he's very much the analog to Andy Diggle, who is sort of like the tertiary main antagonist to the season 4 of Arrow, and so that's sort of where Grim Reaper is sort of going to be going into. The Wasp and Ant-Man are returning, sort of being major characters for the Captain this season. Madam Hydra is our secondary antagonist in the Arrow show. Ruve Dark is sort of the secondary antagonist. So I wanted to continue that trend, and Hydra has it to where you can have a male main antagonist and a female main antagonist, and that's sort of what I'm doing here with this. And then the Calculator character is the Fixer. Someone who, in my mind, when I'm looking at this, someone that used to work for Hydra and is trying to get out, and so he's very much working with the Arrow team to sort of get out of Hydra, and so sort of maybe later joined Thunderbolts. And then another character that we see the return of is U.S. Agent, sort of continuing to be a supporting protagonist or a supporting character for our team of heroes, and is very much just, again, Damien Dark and Hive had a simple thing of, I'm gonna sort of take this little part of Star City and just make it better and just destroy the rest of the world. And so I'm gonna go in that way as well, of just Hydra is just gonna take this little part of New York and just destroy the rest of the world. And that's very much the storyline going into it, why Captain America is very much working with his team to try to take down Hydra and all that. And also, a major plot point that happened in Arrow Season 4 was the death of Dinah Lance, aka Black Canary. And have I decided to do something similar to that? I have. I have decided that Sharon Carter, aka Agent 13, would be killed by Baron Wolfgang von Strucker, and this would sort of be the end of this version of the character. And I mentioned that for a specific reason. And so, yeah, that would be the end of Sharon Carter. Her death would be emotional to the cast and the crew, and the audience would probably hate it, but, you know, I'm trying to keep the analogs very much still there. And so, it would ultimately end with Captain America defeating Baron Wolfgang von Strucker and saving the world. Yeah, that's Captain America Season 4. Very much what you would expect from this. I'm trying to get through all these faster because of how many shows I'm having to cover and all the stuff I'm having to deal with, because I don't want this video to be an hour. I need to shorten it. So that's why I'm only barely touching on all these ideas. And so we're moving on to Iron Man Season 2, which is the Flash analog. And as you know, with the Flash Season 2, we got introduced to the multiverse. Am I introducing the multiverse? Yes, I am. I'm having Iron Man introduce the multiverse because I feel like Iron Man could be a character that could create a portal to the multiverse, or at least another character in sort of this entire universe could create a portal to the multiverse. And so that's sort of what I'm doing here with this. And so the returning cast members that we have are Tony Stark as Iron Man returning, Pepper Potts is returning, Bethany Cabe is returning, Rhodey is returning, and he is turning into War Machine. Michael O'Brien has been promoted to main cast, no longer recurring. He is a main cast member. Edwin Jarvis and Happy Hogan are our main characters returning this season. And so now we get into the recurring characters. Howard Stark is a recurring character, again showing a few more flashbacks with him with young Tony, and we got Rumiko Fujikawa being a recurring character as well, returning, and Hawkeye is a recurring character. He's coming back. I'm specifically not mentioning some of these characters for reasons. Anton Vanko, aka Crimson Dynamo, he will be a recurring character. Sandra Gillespie, who is another love interest of Tony Stark in the comics, she will be appearing in it. Not mentioning those characters because those are for the crossover and for Legends of Tomorrow analog. Captain America will be a recurring character. And then we get the character of Alex Niven, who is sort of a main character in the grander Iron Man universe. And again, because this is the multiverse, I'm very much stating that he is the Iron Man of Earth 1610. Alex Niven is sort of the hero of Earth 1610, and Earth 1610 in the grander actual comics is the Ultimate Universe, and I'm just taking what happens in that universe and skewing it to the way I need it to work in the show, sort of like how Flash and the Arrowverse did with Earth 2, Earth 3, and such and forth. But we get the big reveal that Alex Niven isn't actually an Iron Man, he's actually an alternate universe version of Crimson Dynamo. He is the Crimson Dynamo of Earth 1610. There is no Iron Man of Earth 1610, and Alexander Niven is actually named Alexander Nevsky, who is a major antagonist to Iron Man, and so his version of Crimson Dynamo is very much a main antagonist. Anton Vanko's version of Crimson Dynamo is more of a supporting character, this time around trying to help Team Iron Man and trying to help them beat this evil version of Crimson Dynamo. And then we get the reveal that Alexander Nevsky actually stole the armor of the Iron Man of Earth 4111 or 4111, and that Iron Man is revealed to be Howard Stark. Howard Stark is alive on that Earth, and he is sort of mourning the death of his son, Tony Stark, and he became Iron Man, and very much it's Crimson Dynamo trying to take the power of this Iron Man and other Iron Man of the multiverse, trying to become the ultimate Iron person, but Crimson Dynamo. But ultimately, Iron Man Tony Stark is able to beat him, and he ultimately dies trying to use too much power, Crimson Dynamo does, and gets ripped across the multiverse. But not in a very disturbing way, just in a way that you can see on CW television. And so this sort of starts seeing his father sort of be happy and just still fully missing his father, and then thinking about his parents. That's what slowly leads Tony to go down a dark path that we will get into season 3, which sort of, if you see this, you sort of understand the dark path that Tony will be going down. And that's the Flash analog. And now we get into the Supergirl analog. Now, the Supergirl analog was the one that I had a little bit of trouble with, because it's sort of looking at the super family and me looking at Marvel and sort of being like, okay, what could be the super family? What could be the family of super characters? And I was thinking very hard, and I was like, wait, okay. Superman is sort of the major hero of the grander DC universe. Superman is like the preeminent hero of the DC universe. And then I started thinking about it, I'm like, okay, who is Superman? Who is the Marvel equivalent of like the top tier A-list hero? And I was like, well, the most A-list hero of Marvel is Spider-Man. And so I decided, okay, what I'm gonna do, may be controversial to some people, but I really love it, Supergirl's analog is SpiderGwen. SpiderGwen is the analog for Supergirl. And the way I'm doing it is I'm changing a lot of the backstory as well. So, in this version, Spider-Gwen is not like, oh, she got bit by a spider and then she became Spider-Gwen. I'm not doing that. I'm basing this sort of idea that I have off of someone from DeviantArt. His name is... So the DeviantArt artist that I'm sort of taking this backstory, inspiring this backstory off of, is Green Mamba. And he is someone that also had this idea for Spider-Gwen, and I really like the idea a lot that when I was trying to put this together and have it work with this grand universe I'm creating, or at least this specific Earth, because I am saying this is Earth 65, this isn't in the same Earth as Arrow or the Flash right now, it's in its own Earth. And so I was trying to think of a new way to do this, and I remembered what Green Mamba did, and I was like, oh, this is be an interesting way to do it, and still have Peter Parker be Spider-Man. And so in this version of Gwen Stacy that becomes Spider-Gwen is a clone from the original Gwen Stacy that died. And this version of Gwen Stacy, the Gwen Stacy clone, has spider powers. The professor that created the clone, Miles Warren, gave her Spidey powers. And so Gwen Stacy, now using the name, and again, there are a lot of things I have to fudge to make this really work. She is Spider-Woman in this, and the major supporting character that we have for the Spider-Gwen TV show is Randy Robertson, Glory Grant, Betty Brant, George Stacy. This is the thing of the George Stacy thing of I'm having it to where George Stacy didn't die in this universe. No, he survived. And so when Gwen Stacy died, he was in a big thing of grief. And then the clone happened, and now it's like, oh, my daughter's back. Just gonna let it happen. I'm not gonna question it. And just, if someone tells me that she's a clone, sure, whatever, but my daughter is back, and I'm happy to see her. And another major supporting character of the main cast is May Parker, because I wanted May Parker to be a major character to help Gwen Stacy when she fully decides to become Spider-Woman. And I'm having it to be Gwen Stacy knows that she has spider powers, but she hasn't done anything with it yet because she's been scared to become a Spider-Woman and a spider person since Spider-Man has been doing it and Peter's been doing it for quite a while at this point. And so we get the first episode of her being like, oh, I don't know if I should become Spider-Woman, and then something happens with Glory, Randy, and Betty that she just becomes Spider-Woman. And ultimately we get the team of the Team Spider-Gwen, who is very much Randy, Glory, and Betty. They know that Gwen Stacy is Spider-Woman, and that's sort of the team. Captain George Stacy doesn't know yet. He will eventually learn in like midway through the season. That would be the mid-season finale of him finding out, because I'm looking at him as sort of like my Martian Manhunter character, like the mentor figure that's like, hey, look, I understand you're having some troubles, but I have you and you can do this. And now we get into the recurring characters. I'm not going to mention the main antagonist yet, but because we're in Earth 65, I'm still trying to work within the parameters of what that Earth is like. And so instead of being the Punisher, it's just Captain Frank Castle, a police officer that is a little bit abusive to his people that he's trying to interrogate. I read that first issue of Spider-Gwen. He very much violently interrogated the Rhino. Speaking of, Rhino is in it and Vulture is in it. Matt Murdock is in it, and this version of Matt Murdock is very much a bad guy, just like in Earth 65. And a major recurring antagonist is Cindy Moon, aka this version would be the Superior Silk, sort of like in Earth 65, Superior Silk, and she's like that. But she mainly works under the main antagonist, who would be Harry Osborn, aka Green Goblin. And so in this, Harry Osborn would be the Green Goblin. He would become Green Goblin like in the mid-season finale. Like throughout, he would be sort of an antagonistic force for Gwen, but mainly it would be just Harry seeing Gwen being like, I don't trust you at all. Like, I don't trust you at all because I remember my friend dying, and now you're saying that you didn't die, you were actually captured. I don't trust you at all. And then we get the big reveal with him being like, oh, I'm now Green Goblin, and then it's like, oh, you're not really my friend who died, you're just a clone, now I'm gonna kill you. And then that's sort of the story of, it's a very personal story, or at least I'm trying to make it a personal story between Harry and Gwen. In the meantime, Spider-Man's out doing other stuff, because Spider-Man's busy saving the day somewhere else. And because we didn't see Superman in Supergirl until season 2, we're not having Spider-Man appear in SpiderGwen until season 2, you can imagine. But also I sort of wanted to put Spider-Gwen in another city. I just didn't know which city yet. My first thought was Boston, And so I'll probably do that, where a lot of the stuff that happens in Spider-Gwen just happens in Boston, hence why we don't see Spider-Man at all. He's very much staying in New York. And that's my Supergirl analog with SpiderGwen. And now, time to talk about the crossover, because I very much stated I want to talk about the crossover before I do the Legends of Tomorrow analog. And so, it's Team Iron Man and Team Captain America working together to help the character known as Cable, Nathan Summers Cable, because there's a big multiversal event happening that is being caused by a villain of Cable's, and so because of this villain, it's causing characters from across the multiverse to be placed into the main Earth, causing a lot of trouble. And the characters from the different multiverses that Iron Man and Captain America are trying to help with Cable are Clarice Ferguson, aka Blink, from Earth 295, Kevin Sidney, aka Morph, of Earth 1081, TJ Wagner, aka Nocturne, from Earth 2182, John Proudstar, aka Thunderbird, from Earth 1100, Calvin Rankin, aka Mimic, from Earth 12, and Heather Hudson, aka Sasquatch, of Earth 3470. And so, Team Iron Man and Team Captain America are trying to help Cable and this multiversal team stop this evil entity that we don't get revealed and throughout this crossover. And the heroes have united for the Legends of Today and Legends of Future, for lack of a better term, for that crossover. And they ultimately beat this multiversal threat, or at least they believe they beat this multiversal threat. Because at the end of the two-part crossover, Cable would get a blip on his little radar saying, oh, by the way, this villain that I thought we beat, turns out he's not. He's just throughout the multiverse, and I need to go stop him. And that's when we get Blink, Morph, Nocturne, Thunderbird, Mimic, and Sasquatch all coming together and being like, hey, I don't want you to do this alone. We don't want you to do this alone. We're going to come join you. We're going to be, like, working together as a team. And so that's very much like Cable going, okay, come on. And that's when we get the Legends of Tomorrow analog, which is Exiles, which is an X-Men book about a team of multiversal characters going off and trying to save the multiverse. And I very much was looking throughout all the comics of trying to find something that could be considered remotely close to Legends of Tomorrow. And then that's when I found Exiles, and I was like, you know what? This is pretty good. This is a pretty interesting concept of characters throughout the multiverse coming together, and it's an X-Men book, so I can have, like, this is my way to do a backdoor introduction to the X-Men, and I was like, you know what? Why not? Exiles, here we go. And so Blink, Morph, Cable, Nocturne, Mimic, Thunderbird, and Sasquatch, those are our main characters that go out and save the day, and they're in this little ship. I'm giving them a ship to travel throughout the multiverse. Why not? And the ship has an AI called Magnus, which is very much in reference to Magneto, and I very much wanted Magnus to be like the AI, sort of like a good guy AI for them, like they're Gideon, and that's Magnus. And so the main antagonist of the Legends of Tomorrow, or the Exiles show, the Legends of Tomorrow analog, is Strife, aka Nathan Summers of Earth 4935. Strife is a multiversal enemy of Cable, who's sort of like a clone of Cable, but he went bad, and this is sort of like the Age of Apocalypse, sort of similar to that universe. And so I very much wanted this to be a way to bring in that character, and so he's sort of like a major antagonist for this team and for this season. And we also get flashbacks to Cable's background and backstory of Aaliyah Dayspring, who is his wife, and we also get a flashback of him with Hope Summers, his adoptive daughter, and so we get that sort of storyline with them. And then we also get introduced to the Timekeepers analog, who are sort of like the people that are trying to keep in the Timekeeper in Legends of Tomorrow. They're the ones that are sort of making sure that the time wasn't so messed up from Rip Hunter and the Legends. And so for this, I was like, oh, who are the Timekeepers of the Marvel Universe? Oh, it's the TVA. And instead of doing what Loki's doing, I'm introducing the character of Mr. Alternity, who is like the leader of the TVA, and I'm just having him being a recurring character trying to stop the team of the Exiles of messing up the multiverse too much. And so yeah, that is very much all the analogs, the Captain America Season 4, Iron Man Season 2, Supergirl, or Spider-Gwen, and Exiles. Those are the analogs, and that was the crossover. Man, there's a lot of stuff that's happening in this episode, especially with all this stuff, and we're not even close to when it gets super crazy. But yeah, we introduced the multiverse this season, or this episode. We have a multiversal team of characters. We introduce a Spider-Person. We're having Iron Man slowly go down a dark path, and we have Captain America fully restoring his name as Captain America and going up against Hydra. That's very much what happened in this episode of What If the Arrowverse Was Marvel. But what were your thoughts on this idea? Did you like them? Did you hate them? Were you indifferent? Whatever your thoughts, post them in the comments down below. I love to read all your comments. Also, hit the notification bell. That way you can be notified whenever a new video like this comes your way. And if you like the video, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. That way you can be up to date with all the videos I had here on the channel. I nearly coughed, but I stopped it. But until next time, I've been Mr. EliMac, you've been the audience, and I hope you all have a great rest of the day.